I still remember the sound of my keys hitting the floor. Not a clatter or jingle, but a dull thud against the carpet that somehow echoed through my entire body. Funny how your brain photographs these moments. The keys splayed out like a crime scene, my wedding ring catching the light from our bedroom down the hall. Our bedroom, where my husband and my best friend were having sex. I stood frozen in the entryway of our home, the renovated craftsman that Alex and I had poured 4 years of weekends into. The home where Casey had helped us paint the kitchen that perfect shade of sage green. Drinking wine on the floor as we debated crown molding. The moans filtered down the hallway, unmistakable. Casey's voice, a voice I knew from 15 years of late-night calls and shared secrets, now twisted into something that burned my ears. "You can't tell her," she was saying between heavy breaths. "Promise me, Alex." I should have screamed, should have stormed down that hallway and caught them in the act. Instead, I bent down, picked up my keys with trembling fingers, and backed out the front door, closing it with excruciating care. In my car, I sat with my forehead pressed against the steering wheel, my breath coming in short, painful bursts. My phone buzzed, a text from Casey. "Still on for brunch tomorrow? Can't wait to hear about your meeting." The meeting, the promotion I'd been working toward for 3 years. The reason I'd come home early, wanting to share my news with Alex first. I drove to a hotel that night, paid with cash, sat on the edge of a bed with scratchy sheets, staring at the wall until sunrise stained the cheap curtains pink. When I finally returned home the next day, they'd covered their tracks. The sheets were changed, the bedroom window cracked to release any lingering scent of betrayal. Alex kissed my cheek, asked about my meeting with practiced concern. "I didn't get it," I lied, watching his face. "They went with someone else." "Oh, babe." His arms around me felt like restraints. "Their loss. You'll get the next one." I nodded against his chest, wondering if Casey's perfume was embedded in his skin, the same perfume I'd helped her pick out last Christmas. 3 days passed. I moved through our house like a ghost, cataloguing evidence of their deception. The shower used at odd times, Alex's sudden interest in his phone, Casey's too bright smile when she stopped by with coffee, her eyes never quite meeting mine. "You seem off, Daisy," she said, stirring cream into her cup. "Is it still the promotion thing? Because honestly, you're too good for that place anyway." I studied her face, the face I'd known since college, the face that had cried at my wedding. "Just tired," I said. "Well, perk up," she laughed, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "Life's too short to waste on disappointments." The words hung between us, and something in her tone, a hint of dismissal, of superiority, cracked something open inside me. That night, I waited until Alex was asleep before slipping into his home office. His laptop password was still my birthday. The irony wasn't lost on me. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for until I found it. Emails, dozens of them, stretching back 7 months. "Miss you already. D still suspects nothing. Meeting tomorrow." Last night was incredible, getting harder to wait between our times. Sometimes I think we should just tell her. She's so wrapped up in work anyway. Maybe she wouldn't even care. My stomach lurched, but I kept reading, scrolling through their digital affair until I found something else, something unexpected. Casey had been feeding Alex information about my company, Meridian Tech, where she served as CFO. Insider details about restructuring, about positions opening before they were announced, about the promotion I was being considered for. "Make sure Daisy doesn't get that director position. We need someone more flexible in that role for what's coming. I've already spoken to the board about concerns with her vision. Trust me on this." My hands went numb. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was professional. Casey had actively sabotaged my career while sleeping with my husband. I closed the laptop, my mind suddenly, terrifyingly clear. The hurt was still there, a gaping wound in my chest, but something else was rising through the pain. Something cold and focused. Casey's words from 3 days ago replayed in my head. Life's too short to waste on disappointments. She was right about one thing. I'd been disappointed in my marriage, in my friendship, in my career. But disappointment was passive. What I felt now was anything but. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, transferring half of our joint savings to my personal account. Then I texted Casey. "You're right, life is too short. Brunch tomorrow. I need your advice on something important." Her reply came instantly. "Always here for you. Usual place at 11. I smiled at my phone, the expression feeling foreign on my face. Casey had no idea what was coming. Neither did Alex. But I did. And for the first time in days, I slept without dreams. The morning of brunch, I woke up with purpose burning through my veins. Alex had already left for his client meeting, another lie I'd added to my growing collection. I dressed with deliberate care. A cream blouse Casey had always envied, hair loose the way Alex preferred it, armor of a different kind. The restaurant was our usual spot, a sun-drenched corner cafe where the mimosas came in crystal flutes and the waitstaff knew us by name. Casey was already there, tapping at her phone, her sleek dark hair pulled into a perfect low bun. When she saw me, her smile was dazzling. "There she is." She stood to hug me, her expensive perfume wrapping around me like a noose. "God, you look amazing. New blouse?" "Old favorite," I said, returning her smile with one that felt stretched across my face. "Thanks for meeting me." "Always." She signaled for mimosas before leaning forward. "So, what's this important thing you needed advice on? Is it about the promotion? Because I could talk to—" "It's about trust, actually." I kept my voice light, watching her face. "How do you know when you can really trust someone?" Something flickered behind her eyes, so brief I might have missed it if I hadn't been looking. "That's philosophical for brunch," she laughed. "But I guess it depends on the situation. Work, relationship?" "Both, maybe." I accepted the mimosa the server placed before me, not drinking. "I've been thinking a lot about loyalty lately." Casey took a long sip of her drink. "Loyalty's complicated. Sometimes what looks like disloyalty is actually protection." "Protection," I repeated, tasting the word. "Interesting perspective." "I just mean sometimes people make choices that seem questionable, but they're actually trying to protect someone they care about." She was speaking carefully now, measuring each word. "Like when a friend undermines your career to protect you from success." The word slipped out, sharper than I'd intended. Casey's face froze. "What are you talking about?" I leaned back, suddenly tired of the performance. "I know, Casey. About you and Alex. About what you did to block my promotion." Her face drained of color. "Daisy, don't." I held up my hand. "I saw the emails, all of them." The silence between us stretched, taut and dangerous. Around us, the restaurant continued its cheerful weekend buzz, oblivious to our implosion. "It wasn't what you think," she finally said, voice low. "Alex and it just happened. And the promotion, I was trying to protect you from a bad situation. The company's restructuring. That position is being eliminated in 6 months." "Bullshit." The word felt good on my tongue. "The board approved a 3-year budget for that department last quarter. I prepared the financial projections myself." Casey's eyes narrowed slightly. "How would you know what the board—" "Because unlike you, I actually do my job instead of sleeping with my best friend's husband." I smiled, the expression feeling foreign on my face. "You've always underestimated me, Casey. It's your biggest mistake." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "Daisy, please." "Let me explain. It's complicated." "No, it's actually very simple." I stood, dropping cash on the table. "You betrayed me. Both of you did. But here's what you should know. I got the promotion anyway." Her head snapped up. "What?" "They called yesterday. Director of Strategic Operations, effective immediately." Funny thing about going behind someone's back. Sometimes it backfires. The shock on her face was almost worth everything. Almost. "Congratulations," she managed, voice strained. "That's great news." "It is," I agreed. Especially the part where my first project is auditing the executive expense accounts, including yours. Casey's face went from pale to ashen. You wouldn't. 7 months ago, I wouldn't have, but people change, don't they? I shouldered my bag. Oh, and don't worry about telling Alex. I'll handle that conversation myself. As I walked away, she called after me. Daisy, wait! You don't understand what you're doing. I didn't turn back. At home, I packed methodically. Clothes, important documents, the few family heirlooms I couldn't bear to leave behind. I'd already rented a furnished apartment across town, paid 3 months in advance. As I zipped my suitcase, my phone buzzed with texts from Casey. Please call me. This isn't just about us. There are things you don't know. You're making a dangerous mistake. I blocked her number. The last thing I did before leaving was place my wedding ring on Alex's pillow with a note. Ask Casey about the Meridian audit. She can explain why I'm gone. As I drove away from the house we'd built together, I felt strangely hollow. The rage that had propelled me through brunch was cooling into something harder, more focused. Casey's warning echoed in my mind. You don't understand what you're doing. She was wrong. For the first time in years, I understood exactly what I was doing. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it until I saw the area code. Meridian's corporate headquarters. Daisy speaking. Ms. Hamilton. A man's voice, unfamiliar but authoritative. This is Carlos Reyes from the board. We need to meet. Today, if possible. It's about Casey Fernandez. I pulled over, heart pounding. I'm listening. Not over the phone, he said quietly. But you should know. You're not the only one she's betrayed. The coffee shop Carlos chose was deliberately nondescript. A chain store in a strip mall where nobody would look twice at 2 people hunched over laptops. I arrived early, claiming a corner table with my back to the wall. Old habits from childhood. Always know your exits. Carlos arrived precisely on time. A tall man with salt and pepper hair, and the kind of expensive watch that people who understand wealth never draw attention to. I recognized him from company photos, but had never spoken to him directly. Board members didn't typically interact with people at my level. Thank you for meeting me, he said, settling across from me without offering a handshake. His eyes scanned the room before landing on mine. I apologize for the cloak and dagger, but discretion is essential. Why? I asked, not bothering with pleasantries. What has Casey done? He opened his laptop, turning it toward me. Casey has been systematically siphoning company resources for the past 18 months. We're talking millions in misappropriated funds, falsified reports to shareholders, and strategic information sold to competitors. The documents on screen showed transaction records, email exchanges with redacted names, and financial discrepancies highlighted in angry red. That's not possible, I said, though even as the words left my mouth, I knew they were false. Casey built Meridian's financial structure. She's been with the company since the beginning. Which made her betrayal all the more devastating, Carlos said quietly, and all the more difficult to detect. I stared at the screen, pieces clicking into place. The audit I've been assigned is a cover. We needed someone with your financial acumen who wasn't part of Casey's inner circle. Someone who would notice the discrepancies without being complicit. He paused. What we didn't anticipate was your personal connection to the situation. My laugh was bitter. You mean you didn't know she was sleeping with my husband while sabotaging my career? His expression remained neutral. That complicates things. It simplifies them, I countered, something cold settling in my chest. Tell me what you need me to do. For the next hour, Carlos outlined the plan. I would proceed with the audit, focusing on specific accounts Casey controlled. I would report directly to Carlos and 2 other board members, bypassing normal channels. The goal was to gather enough evidence to remove Casey and pursue legal action without tipping her off. She has allies throughout the company, Carlos warned. Trust no one except me and these 2 board members. He slid a paper across the table with 2 names. I memorized them before handing it back. "What about Alex?" I asked. "My husband. Is he involved?" Carlos hesitated. "We don't have evidence linking him directly to the financial improprieties, but their relationship suggests he may know more than he's letting on." I nodded, unsurprised. Alex worked in commercial real estate, no direct connection to Meridian, but he'd always been unusually interested in my work, in Casey's work. "One more thing," Carlos said, closing his laptop. "Casey knows something's happening. She's been making moves to protect herself, including this." He showed me his phone, an email from Casey to the entire board, sent an hour ago, expressing grave concerns about my emotional stability and professional judgment following personal difficulties. My hands curled into fists under the table. "She's trying to discredit me before I can expose her." "Yes, and it might work if we don't move quickly." Carlos's eyes met mine. "The question is, can you do this, given everything?" I thought about Casey's face at brunch, about Alex's arms around me while he lied, about 15 years of friendship and 7 years of marriage, all built on sand. "I can do it," I said. "I want to do it." Back at my new apartment, I spread out the files Carlos had given me, creating a timeline of Casey's activities. The pattern was sophisticated, but, once you knew what to look for, obvious. Small discrepancies compounding over time, money moving through shell companies, strategic decisions that benefited competitors, who then hired consulting firms linked to those same shell companies. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Please." Alex. My finger hovered over the block button, but something stopped me. If he was involved with Casey's schemes, keeping a line open might prove useful. "Nothing to talk about," I replied. "I know about the audit. Casey told me everything." "You're making a mistake, Daisy. These people will destroy you." My heart stuttered. "What people?" "The board isn't being straight with you. There's more going on. Meet me. Just once. For your own safety." I stared at the message, mind racing. Was this manipulation, or did Alex actually know something I didn't? Carlos had been forthcoming, but boards protected themselves first. Always. Before I could decide, another text came through. "Casey isn't who you think she is, but neither is Carlos. Check the Artemis files before you go any further." Artemis files. I'd never heard of them. I started typing a demand for explanation when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize. Tall, black, with close-cropped hair and intense eyes. She held up a Meridian ID badge. "Zariah Knight, Information Security." "Ms. Hamilton," she called through the door. "I need to speak with you about Casey Fernandez and about what Carlos Reyes isn't telling you." My phone buzzed again with Alex's message. "Don't trust anyone who comes looking for you, especially not from Meridian." I stood frozen between the door and my phone, suddenly aware that I had stepped into something far more dangerous than a love triangle or financial fraud. Whatever game was being played, I was no longer just a pawn. I was a player, and it was time to make my move. I opened the door with my phone in hand, finger hovering over the emergency call button. Up close, Zariah looked even more intense, the kind of person who never needed to raise her voice to command a room. "May I come in?" she asked, her voice low and measured. "That depends on why you're here." She glanced down the hallway. "I'd rather not discuss sensitive company information in a public space." I hesitated, then stepped aside. Self-preservation warred with curiosity, and curiosity won. Once inside, Zariah declined to sit, instead pacing the small living room with controlled energy. "I'll be direct. Carlos Reyes is using you." "Interesting opener," I said, keeping the door unlocked behind me. "Especially coming from someone who works for Casey." "I don't work for Casey. I work for Meridian's security division, which reports directly to the board." She stopped pacing. "The same board that's currently split into warring factions, with you caught in the middle." I crossed my arms. Prove it. Zaraya pulled out her phone, tapped a few times and handed it to me. On screen was an email thread between Carlos and someone named Marcus discussing the Hamilton situation. She's perfect, motivated by personal vendetta, skilled enough to trace the accounts, and expendable if things go sideways. The Fernandez problem solves itself, and we maintain plausible deniability. My stomach clenched. This could be fabricated. It could be, Zaraya agreed. Just like the evidence Carlos showed you about Casey could be manipulated. The question is, who do you trust? No one, I said automatically. Not anymore. Something like approval flickered across her face. Smart. Trust the evidence, not the people presenting it. She nodded toward my laptop. The Artemis files are encrypted financial records from the last 2 years. Casey created them as insurance. They show who's really been embezzling from Meridian. And how exactly would I access these files? You're the financial expert. You tell me where someone like Casey would hide her most valuable insurance policy. I thought about it, mind racing through possibilities. Somewhere hidden but accessible, somewhere tied to a memory or personal significance that only she would recognize. Zaraya nodded. The annual reports. Check the supplementary data appendices for the last 8 quarters. The password pattern would be something meaningful to her. I turned to my laptop, pulling up Meridian's financial database. My credentials still worked. Either they hadn't gotten around to locking me out, or they wanted me to keep digging. Neither option was particularly comforting. The supplementary appendices were massive data dumps, hundreds of pages of numbers that regulators required but almost no one actually read. Perfect hiding place. In each one, I found a small embedded file with an innocuous name, A1, A2, and so on. Artemis, I murmured, the goddess of the hunt. The password took 3 attempts. Not Casey's birthday or her mother's name, but the street address of the coffee shop where we'd first met in college. A place only I would remember the significance of. The files opened, revealing transaction records, board meeting minutes, and email exchanges. As I scanned through them, my breath caught. This shows Carlos and 3 other board members orchestrating the embezzlement, I said, scrolling through damning evidence. They've been using Casey's department as cover, manipulating records, and... I stopped, seeing a familiar name. Alex, my husband is listed here as an external resource. What does that mean? Zaraya's expression softened slightly, the first crack in her professional veneer. He's been helping them launder money through real estate deals, properties purchased, renovated with company funds, then sold with the profits going to offshore accounts. Our house, the renovations we'd done, the clients Alex was always meeting. It all clicked into horrible focus. Casey found out, I said slowly, the truth dawning on me. That's why they wanted me to investigate her. They're setting her up to take the fall. Yes, and now they're setting you up too. Zaraya checked her watch. We don't have much time. Carlos will realize I've contacted you soon. Why are you helping me? What's your stake in this? She met my eyes directly. Casey saved my job last year when I was being pushed out. I owe her. But more importantly, I believe in doing what's right. This company has been my life for 8 years. I won't watch it be destroyed by corrupt leadership. My phone buzzed again. Alex calling this time. I let it go to voicemail. What's the play here? I asked Zaraya. If I can't trust Carlos or the board, and Casey's being framed, where does that leave me? In a unique position. You have access to both sides now. You can continue working with Carlos, feeding him what he expects, while we gather enough evidence to take to the authorities. But we need to move carefully. I raised an eyebrow. You need allies, Daisy. Right now, I'm offering to be one. My voicemail notification pinged. Alex's message was brief. They're watching your apartment. Get out now. As if on cue, my phone lit up with the text from Carlos. Meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. My office. Bring everything you've found so far. I looked at Zariah. If I do this, play double agent, I'm putting myself at risk from all sides. Casey betrayed me personally. Carlos is using me professionally. My husband has been lying about everything. True, she said simply, but you're already in the middle of this. The question is whether you want to be a pawn or a player. I closed the laptop, decision made. I need to see Casey tonight. Can you arrange that? Zariah nodded, already typing on her phone. Pack a bag. Don't use credit cards or your car. And Daisy? Her eyes met mine. From this point forward, trust your instincts. They're the only thing not compromised. As I threw essentials into a backpack, I realized I'd crossed a line. There would be no returning to my old life, no matter how this ended. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, I felt strangely liberated. Zariah drove with the focused intensity of someone used to crisis management, taking a circuitous route through the city, while I huddled in the passenger seat, watching for tails. Where are we meeting Casey? I asked, as we crossed into an industrial district I barely recognized. Neutral ground, a restaurant owned by a friend who values privacy. Zariah's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Casey's already there. The restaurant turned out to be a small Vietnamese place wedged between a warehouse and an auto body shop. Inside, the handful of tables were empty except for one in the back corner, where Casey sat nursing a glass of something amber. She looked up as we approached, her expression cycling through surprise, relief, and wariness. Gone was the polished executive I'd seen at brunch. This Casey looked exhausted, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, her face bare of makeup. You came, she said, eyes fixed on me as Zariah took a position near the door. I wasn't sure you would. I slid into the booth across from her. I'm not here for reconciliation. I know. She pushed a folder across the table. I'm here to give you this, the complete Artemis files, including evidence I haven't had time to upload. Bank statements, recorded conversations, everything you need to bring Carlos down. I left the folder untouched. Why should I believe anything from you? You slept with my husband. You tried to sabotage my career. Casey flinched. I deserve that, but right now, we have bigger problems than our personal history. That's where you're wrong, I said, leaning forward. Our personal history is exactly the problem. You don't betray someone for 7 months and then expect them to trust you in a crisis. I'm not asking for trust. I'm asking for cooperation. Her voice dropped. They're going to kill me, Daisy. The bluntness of it hit me like a physical blow. What? Carlos and his faction. They've already tried once. A brake malfunction on my car last week. That's when I knew I had to accelerate my timeline. She took a shaky breath. I never meant for you to get involved. When I found out what they were doing, I started gathering evidence on my own. Then they somehow discovered I was onto them, and suddenly you were being promoted into a position designed to set you up as their scapegoat. And Alex, I forced myself to ask the question I'd been avoiding. How deep is he in this? Casey's expression softened with something dangerously close to pity. He's been working with them for years, before you were even married. It's how we met. He approached me at a company event, started feeding me information. I thought he was just a charming guy with insider knowledge. By the time I realized what was happening, I was compromised. So sleeping with him was what? Your cover? The bitterness in my voice could have stripped paint. It was a mistake, she said quietly. The worst I've ever made. Not just professionally, but... She looked down at her hands. You were my best friend. The only real thing in my life. I destroyed that, and I can't fix it. But I can try to keep you alive. Part of me wanted to walk out, to leave Casey to the mess she'd helped create. But the rational part of my brain, the part that had made me good at my job, recognized the truth when I heard it. Tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. For the next 30 minutes, Casey laid it out. How Carlos and his allies had been systematically looting the company for years, using increasingly complex financial maneuvers to hide their tracks. How Alex had been recruited early on to help with the real estate side of their money laundering. how she had discovered discrepancies in the books and started investigating privately. When they realized I was gathering evidence, they needed a distraction and a potential fall person, she explained. That's where you came in. The perfect patsy, the betrayed wife with financial expertise and a personal vendetta. And now they're getting nervous. The quarterly audit is coming up and there are too many loose ends. They need to clean house. She glanced at Zariah, who nodded confirmation. Starting with me, then you, then anyone else who knows too much. I finally pulled the folder toward me, flipping through documents that confirmed everything she'd said. What's your plan? Get this evidence to the SEC and FBI simultaneously. But we need to move fast, within the next 24 hours. After that, she left the sentence unfinished. My phone buzzed. A text from Carlos. Change of plans. Meeting tonight instead. 8 p.m. Non-negotiable. I showed it to Casey, whose face went pale. They're accelerating too. We're out of time. As if on cue, Zariah moved swiftly from her post by the door. We've got company. Black SUV just pulled up outside. Casey grabbed my wrist. There's a back exit through the kitchen. Zariah knows where to take you next. I'll create a diversion. Wait, I said, suddenly realizing what she was proposing. You can't. I got you into this. Let me get you out. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw the Casey I'd known for 15 years. The friend who had held me through breakups and job losses, who had been my maid of honor, who I had trusted with everything. I'm sorry, Daisy, for all of it. She pressed something into my hand, a small USB drive. This has everything, including recorded conversations with Alex. Use it. Before I could respond, the front door opened. Casey shoved me toward the kitchen. Go. Now. Zariah pulled me through the swinging doors as I heard Casey call out, Carlos, what a surprise. Care for a drink? In the alley behind the restaurant, engine already running, waited a car I recognized instantly, Alex's Audi. And behind the wheel, looking grim and determined, sat my husband. Get in, he said. We need to talk. Are you insane? I hissed, backing away from the car. I'm not going anywhere with you. Alex's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. Daisy, please. We have maybe 30 seconds before Carlos's men come around that corner. Zariah's hand closed around my arm. He's right. We need to move. When I shot her a disbelieving look, she added, I don't trust him either, but right now he's our best option. A shout from inside the restaurant decided for me. I slid into the back seat, Zariah following, her body tense as a coiled spring. Alex accelerated the moment our doors closed, taking the first corner so sharply I had to brace against the seat. How did you find us? I demanded. I've been tracking Casey's movements for weeks, he said, eyes on the rearview mirror. When she suddenly changed her pattern tonight, I knew something was happening. You've been spying on your lover? How romantic. His jaw tightened. It's not what you think. It never is with you, is it? The anger I'd been suppressing erupted. Was anything real? Our marriage? The house? Or was I just convenient cover for your criminal activities? We're being followed, Zariah cut in, looking out the back window. Black SUV, 2 cars back. Alex swore under his breath, taking a sharp right down a narrow side street. Hold on. For the next 10 minutes, he navigated a maze of alleys and side streets, his face a mask of concentration. I'd seen that expression before, when he was closing a difficult deal, when we were arguing, when he was lying. The familiarity of it made my chest ache. Finally, he pulled into an underground parking garage beneath an anonymous office building, driving to the lowest level before stopping in a dimly lit corner. We should be safe here for a few minutes, he said, turning to face us. Daisy, I know you have no reason to trust me. Understatement of the century. But I'm trying to help you. I've been working with the FBI for the past 3 months. I laughed, the sound harsh in the confined space. Right, you're a criminal informant now. How convenient. Instead of arguing, Alex reached into his jacket and pulled out a badge. Not a replica or a prop, but a genuine FBI consultant ID with his photo. Zariah took it, examining it with expert eyes before handing it back. It's real. I got in over my head, Alex said quietly. Carlos approached me 4 years ago with what seemed like a legitimate investment opportunity. By the time I realized what was really happening, I was already implicated. When the FBI started investigating Meridian 6 months ago, they gave me a choice: cooperate or go to prison. And Casey, I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice, was sleeping with her part of your cooperation agreement. Pain flashed across his face. That was a mistake, the worst I've ever made. It started as a way to get information, then became something else. Something I'm not proud of. Spare me the contrition, I snapped. Casey's back there facing Carlos because of what you both did. Casey's been playing all sides from the beginning, Alex countered. Yes, she discovered Carlos's scheme, but she also used that knowledge to leverage her own position. She's been skimming from their operation for months. I turned to Zariah. Is that true? Her expression remained carefully neutral. Casey's not innocent, but right now she's the lesser evil compared to Carlos. The FBI has been building a case against all of them, Alex continued. But they need concrete evidence linking Carlos directly to the financial crimes. That's where you come in, with your expertise. I'm not interested in being anyone else's pawn, I cut him off. Not yours, not the FBI's, not Casey's. Then what do you want, Daisy? Alex asked, his voice softening. Tell me, and I'll help you get it. The question caught me off guard. What did I want? Revenge? Justice? My old life back? None of those seemed adequate anymore. I want the truth, I finally said, all of it, and I want to make my own decisions based on that truth. Alex nodded slowly. Fair enough. The truth is, Carlos and his people are desperate. The FBI is closing in, and they're looking to clean house. Casey was first on their list, but you're a close second. The meeting Carlos scheduled for tonight is a trap. So what's the play? Zariah asked. We can't keep running. We don't, I said, an idea forming. We use their plan against them. I pulled out the USB drive Casey had given me. We have evidence that could bring down Carlos and his entire operation, but we need to get it to the right people. The FBI has an agent standing by, Alex said, but we need to move fast. I studied my husband's face, the face I'd woken up to for 7 years, the face I'd thought I knew better than my own. Behind the familiar features was a stranger, and yet... Why should I believe you're really working with the FBI? This could be another trap. Because despite everything, I never stopped loving you, he said simply. And I won't let them hurt you. The words hit me like a physical blow, not because I believed them, but because part of me wanted to. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Casey in custody. Carlos knows about the USB. Coming for you next. Z? I showed the message to Zariah. Not me, she said, suddenly alert. Someone else. Alex checked his watch. We're out of time. Carlos's meeting starts in an hour. We need to decide now. Run or fight. I thought about Casey, about the years of friendship before the betrayal, about Alex and the life we'd built on lies, about Carlos and his smug certainty that he could use me and discard me. We fight, I said, gripping the USB drive. But we do it my way. I turned to Zariah. Can you get us into Meridian headquarters undetected? A slow smile spread across her face. That's literally my job. Good. I faced Alex. Call your FBI contact. Tell them to be ready, but not to move until they hear from me. What are you planning? He asked, a note of wariness in his voice. Something Carlos won't expect, I said. I'm going to attend his meeting after all. Meridian's headquarters looked different at night. All sleek glass and strategic lighting, the company logo pulsing blue against the darkness like a heartbeat. Or a warning. Zariah led us through a service entrance, using her security credentials to bypass the main desk. The skeleton night crew barely glanced our way as we moved through the building, Zariah's confident stride suggesting we belonged. Carlos will be in the executive conference room, she murmured. guiding us toward a service elevator. 7th floor. In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished metal doors, hair pulled back severely, eyes hard, mouth set in a determined line. I barely recognized myself. The room is wired for recording, Zariah explained as we ascended, but I can disable the official system. Your phone is set to record? I nodded, patting my jacket pocket where my phone was already running a recording app. The USB drive from Casey was in my other pocket, a small weight that felt impossibly heavy. Once we're in position, I'll text the FBI contact, Alex said. They have agents standing by, but they need at least 15 minutes to mobilize. I'll give them 20, I replied, not looking at him. No more. The elevator doors opened to a dimly lit hallway. Zariah motioned us to follow, leading us not toward the conference room, but to a small security office nearby. I need 5 minutes, she said, sliding into the chair at the monitoring station. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing security protocols with practiced ease. There, I've looped the camera feeds in the hallway and disabled the conference room recording system. As far as security is concerned, nothing unusual is happening tonight. On the monitors, I could see the conference room. Carlos was already there, along with 2 men I recognized from board photos. They were talking, faces animated but audio muted. Where's Casey? I asked, scanning the screens. Not there, Zariah confirmed, frowning. That's not good. Change of plans, I said, making a quick decision. I'm going in alone. Alex, stay here with Zariah. If I'm not out in 20 minutes, call in the FBI regardless. Daisy, no, Alex protested. It's too dangerous. This is my fight, I said firmly. Has been from the beginning. Besides, Carlos is expecting me alone. Anything else will tip him off. Before either could argue further, I slipped out of the security office and made my way down the hall. Each step felt deliberate, my heart beat steady despite the danger. For the first time in weeks, my mind was perfectly clear. I paused outside the conference room door, took a deep breath, and entered without knocking. The conversation inside cut off abruptly. Carlos looked up, surprise flickering across his face, before settling into a practiced smile. Daisy. Right on time. He gestured to an empty chair. Please join us. I remained standing. Where's Casey? Ms. Fernandez is indisposed. The older man to Carlos's right spoke, his voice carrying the weight of authority. I'm Harold, by the way. We haven't formally met. The third man didn't introduce himself, just watched me with cold, assessing eyes. I asked where Casey is, I repeated, moving further into the room, but not taking a seat. Carlos's smile tightened. She's being dealt with appropriately, given her betrayal of the company. But that's not why we're here. He slid a folder across the table. We need your preliminary audit findings. Tonight. I let my gaze move deliberately around the room, taking in details, the positions of the men, the exits, the laptop open on the table. Building time, building tension. Interesting that you're so eager for my findings, I said finally, especially since I've discovered some irregularities that trace back to this room. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Careful, Daisy, Carlos warned. You're making serious implications. Not implications, evidence. I pulled out my phone, making a show of accessing files. Financial records, offshore accounts, real estate transactions through shell companies, all leading back to you, Carlos, and you, Harold, and your silent partner here. Harold's face flushed with anger. You have no idea what you're talking about, don't I? I turned the phone toward them, showing a document from Casey's files, a bank statement with Harold's signature, authorizing a transfer to an account in the Caymans. This is just the beginning. I have everything. Carlos stood slowly, his friendly facade evaporating. Where did you get that? Casey wasn't as easy to silence as you thought, I said, backing toward the door. She's been documenting your operation for months. Give me the phone, Daisy. Carlos's voice was soft, dangerous. Now. Or what? You'll arrange another car accident? Like you did for Casey. I kept my voice steady, despite the fear crawling up my spine. It's too late. The evidence has already been sent to the FBI. The silent man finally spoke. She's bluffing. Am I? I pulled out the USB drive. This contains everything, every transaction, every email, every conversation, including the one where you discussed eliminating me as a loose end. Carlos lunged suddenly, faster than I expected. His hand closed around my wrist, twisting until I gasped in pain. "Give it to me," he hissed. "Let her go, Carlos." Casey's voice came from the doorway. She stood there, bruised but upright, with Zariah and Alex flanking her like guards. Carlos's grip tightened. "How did you get away?" Casey stepped into the room. "You should hire better men, or at least men who can't be bought for the right price." "This is a mistake," Harold said, rising from his chair. "Whatever you think you're doing—" "Exposing you," I finished for him, wrenching my arm free from Carlos's grasp. "All of you." "You have nothing," the third man said dismissively. "No proof that would stand up in court." "Actually," Alex said, holding up his phone, "we have your entire conversation from the last 5 minutes, including your assault on my wife." "The FBI is already in the building. It's over." Carlos's face contorted with rage. He reached inside his jacket for a weapon, I realized with sudden clarity, but before he could draw it, Casey moved. She slammed into him with surprising force, driving him back against the conference table. They struggled briefly before Carlos shoved her away violently. She stumbled backward, colliding with a chair. "You ungrateful bitch," he snarled. "After everything I did for you." "After everything you took from me," Casey corrected, straightening. "My reputation, my integrity, my best friend." Her eyes met mine briefly. Some things can't be replaced. The sound of multiple footsteps in the hallway silenced whatever Carlos might have said next. The door burst open as FBI agents flooded the room, weapons drawn, shouting commands. In the chaos that followed, Carlos and the others being cuffed and read their rights, agents securing the room. Casey made her way to my side. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, "for everything." I looked at her, really looked at her, seeing both the friend I'd loved and the woman who had betrayed me. The anger was still there, but something else too, something like understanding. "I know," I said finally. As the agents led Carlos past us, he stopped, his eyes burning with hatred. "This isn't over, either of you." I stepped forward, meeting his gaze without flinching. "Yes, Carlos, it is." And in that moment, watching him being led away in handcuffs, I finally felt the weight I'd been carrying begin to lift. Dawn broke over the city as I sat in the FBI field office, my 5th cup of coffee growing cold between my hands. The adrenaline had long since faded, leaving me hollow and exhausted. Around me, agents moved with practiced efficiency, processing evidence and taking statements. "Just a few more questions, Mrs. Cooper," the agent across from me said. "Hamilton," I corrected automatically. "I'm going back to my maiden name." He nodded, making a note. "Of course, Ms. Hamilton. Can you walk me through how you first discovered the discrepancies in Meridian's accounts?" I began the explanation again, my financial training making it easy to articulate the complex fraud scheme. As I spoke, I watched Alex through the glass partition of another interview room. He was leaning forward, earnest and engaged as he always was when closing a deal. I wondered if he'd use that same expression when he first approached Casey, when he first betrayed me. "That should be sufficient," the agent said finally, closing his notebook. "We'll need you to sign a formal statement later today, but you're free to go for now." In the lobby, Zariah waited, looking remarkably composed despite the night we'd had. "They're releasing Casey too," she said as I approached. "Immunity deal in exchange for her full cooperation." "Good," I said, and meant it, surprising myself. The elevator doors opened, and Casey stepped out, flanked by another agent. She hesitated when she saw me, uncertainty flashing across her face. "I'll give you 2 a minute," Zariah said, stepping away discreetly. Casey approached slowly, as if expecting me to turn away. They told me you corroborated my statement, confirmed I was being coerced. You didn't have to do that. I told the truth, I said simply. Carlos was threatening you. That doesn't excuse everything, but it's a factor. She nodded, eyes downcast. I never thought it would go this far. When I found out what they were doing, I just wanted evidence to protect myself. Then Alex got involved, and everything became so complicated. Why didn't you come to me? The question that had been burning inside me for weeks finally emerged. Before any of this happened, before Alex, Casey's laugh was bitter. Because you were the one person I couldn't bear to disappoint. You always saw the best in me, even when I didn't deserve it. She met my eyes directly. I was a coward, Daisy, and I lost the best thing in my life because of it. The words hung between us, heavy with 15 years of history. Road trips and late-night confidences, shared apartments and shared dreams, and now, shared betrayal. I can't forgive you, I said finally. Not yet. Maybe not ever for Alex, but I understand how Carlos operated, how he found people's weaknesses and exploited them. My weakness was always wanting more than I had, Casey admitted. More success, more recognition, more of what you had. And now? Now I just want to make things right, however I can. Before I could respond, Alex emerged from his interview room, spotting us immediately. His face registered surprise, then caution as he approached. They're letting me go for now, he said, stopping a respectful distance away. Full immunity in exchange for testimony. Congratulations, I said flatly. You get away with it. Again. He flinched. I deserve that. I deserve worse. Yes, you do. I turned to face him fully. You know what I keep thinking about? Not the affair, not even the fraud. I keep thinking about our vows, for better or worse. You chose worse, Alex. Deliberately. Repeatedly. I know, he said quietly. I destroyed everything good in my life because I was too weak to make the right choice. I don't expect forgiveness, Daisy, but I am sorry, more than I can ever express. Looking at him, this man I had loved, had built a life with, I felt a strange sense of clarity. The anger was still there, but it no longer consumed me. I believe you're sorry, I said, but that doesn't change anything. Casey shifted uncomfortably. I should go, my lawyer's waiting. She hesitated, then added, For what it's worth, Daisy, you were always the strongest of us. I just never understood how much until now. After she left, Alex and I stood in awkward silence. What will you do now? He finally asked. The question caught me off guard. I hadn't thought beyond survival, beyond justice. I don't know, I admitted. Start over, I guess. Somewhere new. The FBI mentioned you might be offered a position with their financial crimes division, Alex said. Your expertise was impressive. I raised an eyebrow. Tracking criminals instead of being used by them. There's a thought. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You'd be good at it. I would, I agreed, surprising myself with the certainty I felt. The main doors opened, and sunlight streamed into the lobby, bright and uncompromising. Outside lay a world fundamentally changed from the one I'd known a week ago. My marriage was over, my closest friendship shattered, my career in transition, and yet, standing there in that moment of reckoning, I felt something unexpected, possibility. I should go, I said, gathering my things. There's a lot to figure out. Alex nodded, not trying to stop me. For what it's worth, Daisy, you deserved better. From both of us. I know, I said, and the knowledge felt like power. That's why I'm going to make sure I get it. I walked out into the morning light alone, but not broken. The betrayal that had defined my recent past would not dictate my future. That belonged to me now. Every choice, every consequence, every new beginning. As I hailed a taxi, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Position available if you want it. We could use someone who knows how to follow the money. Agent Reeves. I smiled, tucking the phone away. Tomorrow would bring decisions, But today was for reclaiming what was mine. Not the life I had lost, but the woman I had found in its ruins. Stronger than before, wiser than before, and finally, irrevocably, free.